I know exactly why you're here. You have to write an informational report and you have no idea what you're supposed to do other than give some information to someone. But that's really vague, isn't it? I mean, how much information belongs? How much background do you need? Are you supposed to summarize your research? Can you explain what the evidence shows? What sections are you supposed to have? And probably the biggest question is, how do you know when you've actually done enough? Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Dr. Whitney Kosters and I am a professor of English dedicated to helping you get through your report, which is why by the end of this video, you should know what an informational report is, what belongs in it, how to organize it, and what to do when you actually sit down to start writing one. If that sounds useful for you, be sure to subscribe and check out my playlist on both report writing and academic writing to help improve your writing skills. So an informational report is a document written to give a particular reader an accurate, organized account of a situation, condition, process, or set of findings so that the reader can understand what's happening. Depending on the situation, this could mean documenting facts, explaining a pattern, bringing together research or data, or establishing what can and can't currently be known. The purpose really then is to help the reader understand the situation rather than tell the reader what should be done about it. Now, informational reports can look different depending on where they're being used. For instance, a hospital might need a report on patient wait times, while a company might need one on employee turnover. A city department could be documenting traffic accidents at a particular intersection, while somebody managing a project may simply need to report what's been completed, what's still underway, and where things currently stand. So, if you've looked at a few examples and thought, these don't even look like the same kind of document, you're seeing a real difference rather than misunderstanding the genre. Different professions also use the term somewhat differently. So in some settings, informational reporting means very straightforward factual reporting, like what happened, what was observed, what work was completed, and what the numbers are. In other settings, though, especially when research or a larger body of data is involved, you may also be expected to bring the evidence together and explain the findings that emerge from it. So always follow whatever instructions or professional conventions you've been given. What carries across these different versions is that your reader needs an accurate understanding of something, and whatever you tell the reader has to stay within what your evidence actually supports. So let's say a company knows that employee turnover has gone up over the last 3 years. You look at the records and find that 86 employees left one year, 103 left the next, and 141 the year after that. Well, we know something now, but we still don't understand very much. I mean, did the company grow during the last 3 years? Because if it doubled in size, those raw numbers mean something very different. Where are people leaving from? Maybe the increase is spread throughout the company, or maybe almost all of it comes from one division. Are these newer employees or people who have been there for years? Did they resign or were they terminated? And if they resigned, is there any reliable evidence telling us why? So that's a lot of questions, which tells us a lot of information is still unknown. It also shows how quickly employee turnover becomes a much more specific investigation. And it's this narrowing that is usually where an informational report begins. Remember, you're not trying to tell somebody everything there is to know about employee turnover. You're just trying to explain a particular situation well enough that somebody can understand what's actually going on with it. So if you start with something huge like college enrollment, workplace safety, homelessness, employee satisfaction, or cybersecurity, give yourself some real boundaries. So instead of trying to cover college enrollment in general, for instance, you might examine changes in upper division enrollment at one university from 2022 through 2026. Instead of taking on workplace safety as a whole, you might look at reported injuries in one manufacturing facility over a 3-year period. Trust me, giving yourself some scope and constraints at the beginning is going to save you a lot of headache later. To make the process easier to follow, I've decided to break the work of planning and building an informational report into 5 steps for you. And step 1 is to write one plain sentence telling yourself exactly what you're examining. For our example, it could be, this report examines changes in voluntary turnover amongst first-year customer service employees between 2024 and 2026. While you may think writing this sentence down is totally unnecessary, I'm here to tell you that it's absolutely not. You would be surprised how easy it is to get off track and end up buried in mountains of documents and research if you just don't keep yourself focused on the specific task at hand. So once you know exactly what you're examining, step 2 is figuring out who needs this information and what they already know. Suppose the person receiving our turnover report already knows turnover went up. Spending several pages proving this is not going to help much. What this person may need instead is a clearer understanding of where the increase occurred, which employees are leaving, whether the timing reveals anything, and whether the records give us any indication of what was happening before they left. Someone outside the organization, on the other hand, may need more background before any of those findings make sense to them. So ask yourself what your reader already knows and what they still need explained. And that's going to help you decide what belongs in the report and what you actually need to research. And this brings us to step 3, which is to gather the evidence that helps answer the questions your report needs to answer. The thing about research is it can get out of hand very, very quickly. You find one useful article, which leads to another, then you're at a government report and a data set and a survey, and before long you've done an enormous amount of work and you're still not sure what the report is supposed to say. So as you research, keep asking yourself, what does this source help me understand about the situation I'm examining? Sometimes you'll realize that a perfectly credible source doesn't actually help you answer anything you need answered. Remember, you don't have to use something merely because you spent time reading it. Now, I should also mention that I have a separate lecture that walks through research and source evaluation step by step, so I'm not going to reteach that here, but for now, just remember that you're gathering evidence because it helps you explain the situation. Once you have this evidence, step 4 is putting it all together. This is where people often fall back on a pattern that they knew from school. They write one paragraph about source A, another paragraph about source B, and another about source C. This is just giving your reader a tour of your research. Instead, you should organize the information around what you're discovering about the situation. For example, suppose these 3 sources, along with the company's own records, help you understand turnover among newer employees. These sources can appear together because they're helping you answer the same question. One might help you compare departments, another might provide information about length of employment, and another might help you examine scheduling complaints and exit surveys. Now the report is organized around employee turnover rather than around your bibliography, and this is where findings begin to emerge. People sometimes hear the word findings and assume they're supposed to discover something enormous, but it's usually much more ordinary than that. A finding is simply a result, pattern, or condition that the evidence allows you to establish. For example, 141 employees left in 2026 is a fact. But suppose you compare the records across all 3 years and discover that most of the increase came from employees who had been with the company for fewer than 12 months. Now you have found a pattern which the report can explain and show the evidence behind it. I do have another lecture that goes step by step through writing findings, so we'll go much further into that over there. You are welcome to check that out right now, though, if you'd like, and it is linked below. Finally, we get to step 5, and this is where you have to be really careful. Don't say more than your evidence allows you to say. Suppose the company changed its scheduling policy in 2025 and turnover increased afterward. You can establish that sequence. Then you look at exit surveys and discover that scheduling complaints also became more common during this period. You can report that too. But can you say the scheduling policy caused the increase in turnover? Maybe, but I would want considerably more before I wrote that sentence. And this is where one very simple question can save you from a lot of bad report writing. How do I know? If you say employees left because of scheduling, what evidence actually tells you why they left? If you say one department was hit hardest, did you compare rates or just raw totals? If you describe something as widespread, how many cases are you actually talking about? Sometimes you'll ask yourself how you know and realize you simply don't, at least not yet. And that's really useful information because now you know where the evidence ends. And this leads us directly to limitations, which are anything about your evidence, data, methods, or available information that affects how confidently you can interpret what you found. So maybe only 30% of departing employees completed an exit survey. While these surveys tell you something useful, you should be careful about treating them as though they tell you what every departing employee thought. So at this point, we've narrowed the issue, identified the reader, gathered useful evidence, put the evidence together, and figured out how far our claims can responsibly go. Now we have to start thinking about the structure of the report itself. Know that there is no universal set of headings that every informational report uses. I mean, a short project status report is going to look very different from a 20-page research report. But if you're still trying to picture the finished document, a basic research-based informational report might look like this. An introduction explaining what you're examining and why, a short section establishing the scope or explaining where the information came from, several sections organized around your major findings, and a conclusion that brings these findings together and clarifies what the reader now understands. Your report may use different headings or combine some of those pieces, but this gives you a basic picture of what you're building. What you should care much more about is whether these sections actually help somebody use the report. Turnover doesn't tell me very much, but turnover amongst first-year employees tells me immediately what I'm going to find in that section. Visuals can also help when they make a pattern or comparison easier to understand. If 5 years of numbers create a pattern that is immediately obvious in a graph, then use the graph. If exact values need to be compared, maybe a table makes more sense. But please don't just add a chart simply because you think a report is supposed to have one. It should help the reader understand something specific that words alone simply can't. And lastly, watch for the point where your informational report starts drifting into a recommendation report. Once you spend enough time researching a subject, it's very easy to start deciding what should be done about it. But evaluating solutions requires another layer of work. You would need to consider the available options, costs, constraints, risks, feasibility, and whatever else is relevant before responsibly telling somebody what they should do. Many information reports stop way before this point because their job is to simply establish the situation so somebody can make a better informed decision afterward. So just be mindful with your wording. Calling something a failed policy already tells the reader how to judge it. Or saying an organization only adopted a procedure in 3 departments also introduces a judgment about whether 3 departments are enough. So now let's make this very, very practical for you. What do you literally do when you sit down and start writing this? If you remember nothing else from this video, write down these 5 questions. What exactly am I examining? Who needs this information? What does this person need to understand? What evidence will help me answer these questions? And what does that evidence actually allow me to establish? If you can answer these 5 questions, then you can start the report. Open a blank document and list the questions your reader needs answered. Under each one, start adding the evidence that helps you answer it and make a note whenever you reach something that you can't quite establish confidently. You will find that you'll begin rearranging things, discovering new questions, and throwing out the evidence that turns out not to be useful. But at the very least, you're no longer staring at a blank page. Once you have a draft, read it from the reader's side. Ask yourself, can the reader tell what you examined? Can they find the major findings easily? Does the evidence actually support what you say it supports? Have you made any claim stronger than what you can actually prove? And does the reader understand the situation without having to reconstruct it from all of your individual sources? Ultimately, that is the job of a good informational report. You do the investigation so the reader doesn't have to. You sort through the material, figure out what belongs, identify what the evidence establishes and where its limits are, and give the reader that understanding in a form they can actually use. I hope this made information reports feel a lot more manageable for you. If you need help with the individual pieces, I do have separate lectures on research, findings, visuals, and the other parts of report writing linked in the playlist. Feel free to leave any questions below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Be well.